All right, welcome back, students. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to add more lights in around Ava's face. I'm going to make these other areas over here a little richer, a little redder, a little darker. So I'm going to start even adding a little bit more detail to the work. I usually just make sure that my lights are still there again and just making sure these areas are correct. And going in, just really lighten up these areas, paying attention to the planes, the cross contour. Is it going left? Is it going right? Is it going across? Wipe off in between. Again, keep in mind it's a painting. It's not a photograph. Photographs are there for you, again, as a reference, as a guide. You are the magician, and you can decide if an area should be lighter or darker or warmer or cooler. I'm looking to see where some of these redder bits are, and it's gonna look a little scary. But again, I wanna make sure that I can still see the color that's underneath, the color before it, and just keep building up these layers, again, with redder and darker and brighter and richer. Whatever you want to do, you want to do that. You don't want to just leave it like that, like I said before. Just want to make sure that we're going to blend everything out. I'm going to take another brush. You might use a stiffer brush, and I'm moving all this paint around. One of the things students are really intimidated by is really adding colors, and she does have colors on her face. So don't be afraid to put it on there, and if it scares you a bit, then take a little off. There's some richer red here, there's red here, there's red here. In and then move that around with my paper towel. But I'm not going to be afraid to leave those really bright colors there, because then I can go back later with a blue or a green, something cooler to kind of neutralize those areas. So I'm going to keep going around here, and really I'm going to put my reds in here, and then I'm going to probably go in with some blues because everything is dried, and all the background over here, this dark area, the purple, I'm going to go in with a darker blue as well in those areas. I'm going to keep pushing my reds a bit more. Let's see, I'm going to look around here, around her lip area, to make sure that I'm going to push this kind of purpley alizarin crimson around her lips without overdoing it. And this area has a little bit blue around here, so I'm going to put some lines in there, but I'm going to soften them up. In these other small areas, I'm not going to be afraid to just go in and leave some of these, again, harder edges. This is going to slowly build it up a little bit and make sure that I've got them right. The dark's the most important thing with glazed painting, because it's the area that makes the painting recede into space, and that's how you get the illusion of depth in a space. If you notice in classical paintings, it's very thin in the shadow area. This is trying to have that illusion of depth through that space. Now this forehead area actually gets fairly dark. I'm going to invade in her hair a little bit from the hairline so there's not an abrupt change. Or I'm going to keep glazing the darks, adding reds and blues and things like that to just keep building it up. Again, I don't ever really want to use black because I don't want it to make it look artificial. Because I kind of got this purple color going, I'm going to keep building up these colors. French ultramarine, that's going to give me a very dark black. It's almost like I'm going to see about adding it into this area in her hair and kind of wisping, because hair has a texture to it, and the one thing you want to do is not to keep it flat. You actually now want to start adding some of this texture. I'm going to go ahead and throw some more darks around here. Because she has black hair, that I keep darkening up around these areas. So I'm going to take a little bit of the dark and push that back a little bit more as well. I'm gonna keep working these areas around her hair. The darker I get, obviously, in the background, her face is gonna get lighter. Now, if you have a light background, just keep adding color to it, because even with a light background, there is gonna be color into the light. So make sure that you add your reds, your blues, and your greens, and don't neglect the background, because that is part of your painting as well. And what you do to your background does affect what happens to the foreground. So don't just work one area and forget about the rest. Well, now I'm really building up that dark a little bit more, using a lot of my gel medium to move that paint around. And go ahead and bring the background, that hair and that background all together, and not being afraid to do that. But this hair, I don't want to neglect it and all this other area as well. Go in on Ava's face again, just kind of, again, nothing's real thick. I want to go ahead and put some paint on here. I know that there's some rich areas right here, and she's going to look a little funny. But then I'm going to smooth it out. What I'm doing now is I'm kind of color spotting these rich areas that I know are there, not being afraid to put them on there. I'm going to take a harder brush. This is a regular Bristol brush. I'm using this brush instead of the sable, because the sable is way too soft. So I'm going to just move this around a little bit to add some richness back into her face. I'm going to take a little of the Viridian green. I'm going to start spotting these colors again. To here. I know that area is really light. So I add a red here and a green here, and the complement helps kind of offset how red these other areas are. But if you notice how much brighter she automatically got just by doing that. These bits here. Try to spot these areas again without overworking them. The areas that are lighter in value is going to start to get a little bit thicker, more opaque. You don't have to be as cautious with it. What I'm doing now is I'm adding color, and some purples and reds and all these other mixture of colors that are starting to happen in these bits. I'm not going to be afraid to go in. I don't have to detail everything. The beauty of this is these mixtures of cool and warm all start to kind of help complement each other, and we are building up the palette, the colors on here. The cooler, a browner, a richer area here. Some siennas. Put that on there, and I'm going to wipe some off because it's a little bit too much. If you make a mistake, you can start over in those areas again. Nothing is finite. Well, if you make a mistake on the Verdaccio, let's say you get an area too dark, you could go back with a lighter color on top of it, and then you can then go and add more colors on top and slowly build up again. Go in and build up these areas, still the darks. Go in and soften up this spot that I had on here. Take a little bit more purple, wipe a little off on my brush, put it back in here. I am slowly building up the colors again. And make sure I put the richer reds back into this area, deepening, darkening, lightening areas back up. Keep working these spots.